thank you everybody for attending the meeting. I think I learned a lot. I hope everybody had a successful meeting. Part of the objective was really to start bringing a community of researchers working on ammonia. So the connections we're making through these meetings are as important as the learning. First of all, I just want to go to some thanks. The sponsors, first of all, that make this meeting possible. And CKU and KAUST sponsored this event. The local organizing team was essential to make this happen, because also all the NCKU team on the ground here, they helped us during these 2 days. I'm just ask for a round of applause. Thank you. And also I want to thank the CCSC communication team, Catherine and Alia, that really helped us in putting together the website and managing the registration. So before we leave, I would like to start a little bit, if we have more discussion. Let me go back. So I just want to hear from you first, and then I put together something. Is there anything that anybody wants to highlight as a key challenge that emerged from this meeting and really we should address, again, as a community? So anybody wants to, otherwise I have a list of things to just start the conversation. Okay. Yeah, my list was made really quickly right now, so but I think this is something we can start discussing and eventually we'll elaborate with time. So one thing I noticed is we had some excellent presentation talking about industrial application of ammonia. So this is a field where industry is actively looking into, and I was surprised how little CFD was present. So this to me is suggesting the low-cost CFD models is an area where we should put an effort in developing, because most of what I saw was great work, but really a lot of experimental, both for engines and furnaces and gas turbines. So a question open I have is like, how this low-cost simulation not reliable within our community, or is simply they're not being used by industry for other reason? And if they're not reliable, how can we help in achieve? This should be one of the targets of this group. Anybody wants to comment? Yeah, please don't let me just go through that.
Yeah, so Giordano, my understanding is that the chemistry is not reliable enough. My understanding that the best combustion models to use are not reliable enough, and that the experimental data that we are producing is helping models develop their models. When we try to do simple sort of fluent runs for the ammonia puffer flames, suddenly we were off by a mile, and even the developers that are contacted of the software recognize that these are not trivial issues and there's a lot of things to resolve. So your observation is right, but I don't think we could do more than produce this data that we're producing and highlighting what's important and what's not important, I guess.
This brings me to the next question I have. I mean, most of the talk, if not all of them, highlighted the lack of reliable chemical kinetic models. I mean, there is a lot of work that's been going on in the past years. We're converging towards something, but it's not clear when we go to the equivalent of what we have for methane, natural gas combustion. So few people highlighted the need of minor species measurement. I would like to go, if we have a chance, to go a little bit more in detail. I mean, what kind of configuration, what conditions, what species really we need to target to address the chemical kinetics model issue that seems to, I would say, the #1 issue right now in this community. Any suggestion, ideas? So
I guess that's for the chemist.
Yes, so there I think the NH2 is a key radicals for the ammonia combustion, and how NH2 radicals goes to the NOx formation and oxidation and denox process. this branching ratio is a key to the further improvement of the chemical kinetics. Because any other radicals are welcome, but in my opinion, the Na2 radicals is the key species for the further validation.
And following up, what kind of flame configuration would be your preferred choice? Would you like a flat flame, a counterflow, whatever?
I think right now I haven't seen any radical quantitative measurement for the fundamental system. I mean the zero-dimensional transient system or 1D steady state system. So any kind of the system are welcome for the radical species measurement, I think.
Okay. So from my understanding, there is some work going on. I'm doing in my group some work exactly on NH2 measurements in counterflow flames. There is the group in Georgia Tech. I went in soon, already working in exactly the same direction. So there is, you see much more of this coming up. The other topic I had was about turbulent flames. So TNF for ammonia was a little bit revived, I would say. So we're looking into providing this turbulent chemistry interaction validation data set, lower preferential diffusion, maybe not important, we'll find out. One thing we never talked during this conference, and they came up in other places, is the role of pressure. This has been put a little bit on, I never heard during this meeting, so I was kind of want to probe a little bit the community here. Should we look, is it important to aim for these pressures that ammonia flame, especially because of their effect, the effect on pressure on NOx? Is that something we should consider, especially in a canonical configuration? Anybody wants to comment on?
Well, it appears to me we have enough problems at atmospheric, and not many people have capabilities to do pressure, but it's something to keep in mind. But it's a lot of things to do in between, I guess, until we sort out the chemistry and we could predict simple flames at atmospheric conditions. Then, of course, the pressure is important. That shouldn't stop anybody collecting data, but I think in terms of priorities, I think it's low priority for now. Unless industry wants it, and that's a different story.
That's if they're paying for it, that's it. Okay, in terms of diagnostics, Bo gave a very wide overview. My summary in terms of what we need is really quantitative minor species. That's for me, I would say, the number one issue, and that fits with the chemistry requirement. But also one thing that eventually will be needed in the long term is how to implement some diagnostics in actual industrial device. It can be an engine, it can be a furnace, it can be a gas turbine, so larger scale. I mean, those are challenging environment, as we've seen today, especially the furnace. But I think, in my opinion, this is something we need to look eventually in the long term into.
Let's see if somebody online wants to say something.
Nope.
No.
I didn't see anybody online. I mean, see a lot of people online, but no raise hands. And another topic that again came up is, my understanding is that if we want to, especially for power generation or even for IC engine to some degree, we need to look at liquid ammonia sprays, and flash boiling is one of the key issues. Good news that I learned today that the turbulent spray flame workshop will be looking to this, so it will be a counterpart to some of the TNF activity to some degree, maybe. Also, Giancarlo pointed out ammonia mild combustion. That seems a really good match to reduce the NOx and fix a lot of issues, especially like in a furnace configuration. But the data are really lacking. So it's in terms of priority, should we really target a more bridge configuration, like the cyclonic burner from Naples, or more a canonical flame kind of configuration, like could be the jet in octane flow in a sense. Yeah, I mean, that's yeah. Right.
So we, as you know, we have plans to do jet and a hot cough law and potentially around Rayleigh and so on as part of the CRG. So and that's likely to happen soonish.
Yeah.
But our plans for fairness later on down the line.
That's all I had. I mean, I can add much more, but anybody else wants to add anything? Okay.
Well, I think it's been already. I think in the modeling aspects, the flame speed. Again, I mean, as we all know, the lower the absolute value gets, it's harder to measure them accurately within a fewer % of accuracy, and compounded by the fact of this hydrogen effect, because you will inevitably use hydrogen. So that experimentally, we need to figure out how we can improve the fidelity of that data, which is always an issue, even for basic hydrocarbon flames. When you go into lean conditions, it's going to be a challenge. So I don't know the answer, but there's something we have to at least add on our checklist.
Regarding that topic, I discussed with Matthew yesterday. Maybe the one idea could be we can set the standard condition for ammonia combustion. I mean the standard atmospheric pressure and normal temperature is very good for the methane flames, but for ammonia it's quite difficult. Many uncertainty are introduced in the experiment. So, for example, the set the preheated temperature as a standard, for example, 500 Kelvin or something like that. And then we can, all of the community, at least one point is enough, takes the same, at the same temperature and atmospheric pressure condition, takes the data of the laminar flame speed and also turbulent flame. People also do the same experiment in the such condition. That can be minimize the uncertainty effect. And in future, maybe we can also shift to the lower flame speed condition, but at least in the one of the as the easiest way, we can eliminate the uncertainty for the laminar flame speed measurement. This is one of the idea.
Yeah, I really like your comment. It's also online, in line with what Matt yesterday was suggesting around about the turbulent flames. We've been replicating conditions in series that were from hydrocarbon, but for ammonia, maybe we need to modify to something, as you say, make it maybe easier for us to do it. And this is also what I was referring to regarding the pressure. This is in many cases been a major issue in hydrocarbon flames in doing measurements at the pressure, because you're gonna create soot no matter what, in at least if you are in non-premix mode. In ammonia, it's a completely different environment, so there are benefits in operating at elevated pressure. I know it's challenging to have a high pressure vessel, but there are benefits. I think this is, oh, Mara, yes. Mara,
Yes.
go ahead.
Yes, I agree with the needs of quantitative data for mild combustion, but also we miss information about radical species and so on. So diagnostics and this from this point of view has to do a lot of work. But I want to come back to the needs of chemical kinetics understanding in mild combustion range. I mean, at high temperature, almost all the mechanisms are predict almost the same results, but low temperature range is a very critical one. So I think that to really understand and to have the well, this combustion regime, we need to go ahead with chemical kinetics knowledge in low temperature range. And what we generally miss during discussion, I don't want to be, to repeat. I apologize for that, but of course, all the kinetics, reaction kinetics, all the understanding of the measured species involved in process, but the role of the third body in that is really relevant in this temperature range characteristic of mild combustion. And again, yesterday it was discussed a bit about the third body role of water, but also other species, especially ammonia itself, has to be considered in its role of third body in the thermomolecular reaction. So for mild combustion needs of much more results, experimental results, but a lot of work has to be done to clarify the kinetics in low temperature range. This is my.
Thanks, Mara. Any more comments? Well, if not, let's close this second ammonia combustion meeting. Let's also thank all the speakers.
I would also like to propose a round of applause for Gaetano, who's been leading the whole effort.
Thank you.